Well, right now, they're very concerned over the posture that's going on. The government has been insisting that the father cannot meet with his son without the government's lawyers being present or without the father's lawyers being present. They've made it very clear to the government, and they're looking for any help that the community can give, that's United States citizenry, to officiate a reunion just between the father, the family, and the boy.
Now, Greg Craig, who used to be, of course, the president's lawyer, we all saw him during the impeachment trial, he's now the lawyer for the kid's father, but a lot of people say he's actually being the lawyer for Fidel Castro because the father's movements are controlled by Fidel. What do you think?
Well, the father came off a plane, read a prepared statement, went on to Cuban territory, and is represented by a lawyer that is an extension of the Justice Department, the President of the United States.
What's the propriety of that?
Well, it's impossible as far as I'm concerned. These people have not had a day in court. This whole thing is being politically manicured. The fact remains that Fidel Castro most recently, and this is one of the things that the lawyers told me just about 10 minutes ago.
This is the lawyers for Elian's Miami relatives.
That's right.
Yeah.
They came out and said that he came out publicly very recently saying that when Elian comes back to Cuba, we will need to re-educate him. Now take your question. You take the lawyer for the President of the United States representing the father. You take a speech written, perhaps in Cuba, and you have State Department agents and everybody in a compound.
Yeah.
He's now further away from his son than when he was in Cuba.
Well, let's talk about the re-education. It's a phrase that we remember from the Cold War, perhaps, but Cuba has a code of the child that it developed in 1978. It concerns issues like this. Let's just look at one of the articles from that. It says, anyone who comes in contact with a child, anyone, whether it's in Cuba or elsewhere, must contribute to the development of his communist personality. Now, did these laws override the parents' authorities?
Well, that is a Cuban constitutional precedent. The fact remains that this young man is now, due to the dying efforts of his mother, on U.S. soil. What should override here, and nobody's objecting, is that the father belongs with the son. Nobody is saying that the father isn't an unfit father. We don't know yet. But the fact is that those politics need to be taken out of this.
But Michael, let me put up another article from that Code of the Child. Again, this is Cuban law. It says the state will provide efficient protection of youth against all influences contrary to their communist formation. Now, the U.S. is saying that the father has the authority of the child in this case. At least Janet Reno is saying that. In this case, it looks like the Cuban government doesn't recognize the authority of the parents.
Yeah, it's just remarkable, and that is the basis of a political asylum application here. That is why the lawyers are desperate to get a day in court. Despite the bites of the apple that they've had right now procedurally, they have not had an effort to extend, is this father fit, whether or not he has, as a politically prominent child, a sound political asylum case. People say he's going to go back to Cuba that has these laws as a prominent boy.
But since now Janet Reno and the Justice Department are saying that he has to go back in a nation that respects these laws of the state over the rights of the parents, is the U.S. now accepting the authority of the Cuban government over the rights of parents?
Undoubtedly. The State Department does not react in these cases. They are reacting to the interests of the United States with Fidel Castro, the financial interests. We don't know what the agenda is. They're not looking in the best interest of the child.
And finally, Sister Jean O'Loughlin, the nun who facilitated the meeting between the grandmas and Elian, she's going to be on Bill O'Reilly tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, by the way. But she made an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, in which she said that the National Council of Churches is no longer in charge of what happens in this case. The National Council of Churches being the group that's orchestrating the reunion between the father and the son. Does that mean that we shouldn't take what they do seriously? Will that count at all in this legal battle?
I think people were impassioned by the sister's emotions. She saw the fear in the grandmother's eyes. She's met with the family. She sees what's happening. She's concerned that this is not going through the legal system where this whole case belongs. And I think that those comments are very significant.
All right. Michael Wiles, we thank you as always. Great to see you again. Still ahead, if a toddler kicks and screams, it could be a problem with the parenting. We're going to tell you why. And Jerry Seinfeld, the former king of primetime comedy, the former king of Bachelors, now becoming a daddy. We're going to tell you more about that right here on Nonstop Fox.